Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Midweek Metagame. I'm your host, Gabriel Nassif, joined by my regular co-host, Edgar MTG.
Hello, everyone.
Lots to get into this app. We have standard results from the last round of RCs, plus the huge Spotlight series in Richmond, so a bunch of standards. We've also been playing a little standard, not too much success for me. We'll also talk a bit about no balance modern and modern, tiny bit of pre-modern to round things up, but still mostly focused on standard and take a look at the new cards if any of them had an impact. So yeah, all that good stuff. Before we get into that, this podcast is sponsored by Ultimate Guard and TCG Players. So shout out to them. Anytime you do business with Ultimate Guard or TCG Player, that helps me out. Doesn't really help Edgar that much. He gets a little bit, few free things here and there, but yeah. And if you want to support us directly, you can do so at patreon.com/midweekmetagame for as little as $1 an episode. Thank you to our 16 paid patrons. I didn't even realize, but I was checking yesterday, and apparently we even have some people who support us as much as $4 an ep, despite the fact we basically offer no extra value through. But yeah, you can support us for $1 an ep on Patreon, and Edgar actually does get half of it, so that's a way of supporting him as well. But yeah, another week, another round of RCs, and I think everyone was kind of, I don't know about excited. I'm not sure if people had like the highest of expectations for the Turtles cards. When do people call that set? Because do people just say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, TMNT? I say
Probably
Turtles.
TMNT if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time I have to type it, I have to be like, all right, is it the M first or the N first? Every time I type it in a title or something. But yeah, TMNT. And if people would adjust to Prowess, had a really good showing the weekend before. If Landfall would still be a solid choice, all these things. If one of the if something new would stand out, and there was actually a deck that stood out, right?
Yeah. I mean the new mono white Momo deck that had been popping up ended up performing really well last weekend. I don't remember if we talked about that deck last week on the pod. I think we did. But yeah, we
I think
saw
we
we saw it
might
performing pretty
have.
well. It was it was winning on camera. It was winning overall according to the stats. I think it was the highest win rate deck of the entire weekend. And we saw some variations on it, so a little bit of improvements. I know. Um, I think it was Zevin Faust on camera playing a Boros version of the deck. Um, and I know that I saw some other lists that had a little bit of a variation as well. But yeah, just a lot of new mono white cards that people are playing that are kind of just taking advantage of the more narrow format that we've been having.
Yeah, the cards are just very streamlined deck. I think we talked about it last week because I remember getting paired against it and being kind of impressed. And I guess if you had been paying attention to Magic Online results and maybe the deck string out in the ladder, yeah, you could have maybe done well with Mono White. I tried some versions, some Jeskai versions. I saw Show, the streamer who's kind of back at playing Magic a bit, or even a lot recently. He's like at the top of the ladder. He was playing a version splashing blue for Riddler and a cool adventure card. It's the 4/4 flying that has a 2 mana blink mode as an adventure. So a bit of exploring left to do for this archetype, but it might just be that being one color is so good, you get to play a bunch of value lands. I think they play the temple and the sanctuary, so always a good place to be. And yeah,
Yeah, the temple specifically is just an amazing draw to staying mono white, but you do get a little bit more restricted with your interaction spells and some of the threats that you might get to play. Like it's no secret that Riddler is an extremely strong card. If you can support that, it's also just happens to be great with Momo. Zevin, like I mentioned earlier, was playing the Warp Dragon as well as some Burst Lightnings to have some more interaction against Cub decks, against Prowess. So that could be a smart direction as well. But yeah, a lot of potential innovation still there.
Yeah, he only played day one, right? I think he had to actually drop at A1 because I don't remember the
Well, he
reason,
went.
but
I think he went 7-2, but then dropped to play the limited event.
oh, okay.
He decided that he would rather try to qualify for that. I think is my understanding. But
Yeah.
yeah, finished day one at 7-2 with his list.
Yeah, solid showing. I tried a Jescalis. It looks like it should have been great on paper as splashing for Riddler at Go Ninja Go, and I felt like most of the times when I drew these cards, I was happy to draw them. I was hoping to draw these cards, but maybe there was too many moving parts, and sometimes these cards were a little awkward when you did draw them together, or maybe I just ran bad. It was really small sample, but on paper it sounded kind of great. Um, I know Gavin, one of my viewers, did well in the Spotlight series. Was the updated list of the kind of the Jeskai mid-range deck was it has Gwen Stacy, you play Shiko, you play whatever. It's kind of that weird mix. I think they had sweepers in the main, but a bunch of creatures, and that one was more streamlined. He was playing 4 copies of Go Ninja Go to go with Shiko. He had 4 copies of Ashling as a 2-drop to power out the Riddlers, and I tried the deck a bit on stream. It was pretty solid. I didn't win that much. I won a little bit more than I lost, but yeah, he went 11-4, so that's a, a different take on these kind of decks. No Momo in this deck, but different kind of engine, a little more mid-rangey. But
Yeah, that build makes a lot of sense to me just because it's that was already the Shiko deck, like the default Shiko deck, just because Shiko out Gwen Stacy was just kind of a powerful engine. You kind of wanted to play a more tap out game. The Ashlings make sense to me just because that curves really nicely into Quantum Riddler plus Go Ninja Go on turn 3, as well as setting up for your more expensive plays. I think he was playing Winter Night Stories instead of Stock Up, which I found interesting.
yeah,
That's not something I really expected, but it could be a reasonable thing just with all the extra creatures. Give you some more card advantage going into the later game when those creatures fall off. So yeah, that seems like a reasonable shell for that. And the thing about Go Ninja Go as well is that I think in order for it to be like super good to play this like obviously the Riddler Go Ninja Go thing is kind of the dream or the Shiko thing, but you still want your removal spell to be a serviceable card otherwise. So kind of like increasing the density of 2 mana creatures or cheaper creatures to give yourself the opportunity to just play a more fair game with your removal spells, I think is pretty important too.
yeah. The Winter Night Stories is cool. Was Ashling 2? You can discard it to Ashling on 2, and then go Riddler Warped and recast your Winter Night Stories right away if you don't have
Right.
Go Ninja Go. So there's a lot of cool things going on there, and maybe the sideboard could have been a little more. The sideboard plan is a little more refined. The Green Landfall matchup is still tough though. With all these mid range decks, it's a deck still like kind of the whatever you want to call it, Fun Police, Boogeyman.
Yeah, it's the top dog right now for sure. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about these new strategies, I guess mostly the Momo decks, but Landfall did have a 55% win rate. It was still the most winning of the known decks going into this weekend, and it ended up taking down, I think, most of the events. It won the spotlight. It won the South American, or sorry, the Central American RC. Um, and that might be it. But it had a ton of top eights across all 4 premier events this weekend. So just kind of a really dominant showing, even despite being one of the decks to beat.
Yeah, it's really just the Simic Rhythm Cub decks, the Cub decks that whether it's the Simic version, I think probably 4-color versions is still fine against it too. That beats it. Prowess, even Prowess, only 54% win rate against Green Landfall, and what's supposed to be like a good matchup. And yeah, even that one's not that lopsided. So it really feels like it's all about are enough people going to show up was Cub rhythm decks to punish the Green Landfall players, and if not, Green Landfall's just going to continue to dominate.
Yeah, and we talk about punishing, but like 37% win rate for your worst matchup is not even that bad, to be honest. So um, it could still
Yeah.
be true. Like unless we see numbers like we saw at the what was it, the World Championship or the last Pro Tour. Like unless we see Cub numbers like that, it's going to be, kind of feeding season for this landfall deck going forward. And we already see the landfall decks kind of, readjusting. Um, a lot of the lists that ended up performing well this weekend kind of moved away from sapling nursery. This is mostly in the spotlight. I think that was. I'm not sure who this innovation came from, or I mean, I call it an innovation, but it's kind of recessing back to what the decks used to look like. But yeah, we saw John Puglisi Kark win with a version with no nursery. Jesse Peeling got third. He also did not have any nurseries. Just opting to have like a more streamlined deck, like a few more creatures that are good against these prowess decks. Um, and just having like some protection spells is something that we haven't seen before. Copies of Royal Treatment, or rather, we haven't seen in a little while, and kind of punishing these removal heavy decks that are trying to take advantage of these cup strategy or these landfall strategies.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on Green Landfall, but I assume these lists are a little better in the mirror, right? Because you have Esper Origins to find your nut draws, your nut harmonizer draws more consistently. That way trumps any amounts of free for reach your opponent can make, right?
Yeah, that would make sense to me. I assume the mirror comes down a lot to Earthbender's Ascension as well, and just winning that battle,
Yeah,
just to because I assume that both decks will be able to make like an extreme number of blockers if the game comes down. Like you said, especially if they have nursery still. So um, I'm not sure how much the whole meld striders resolve royal treatment dance ends up mattering, but against something like prowess, for example, I think you kind of walk into their game plan if they have a ton of annuls and other counter spells, and you just have these clunky spells rather than just staying low to the ground.
yeah. No, yeah, it's interesting to see like how these lists evolve and shift or come back to what they used to be. Um, Pretty cool. It's kind of the dance you expect in standard. It's like the same decks week after week, but tweaks or sideboard adjustments and just not sure where the format goes though when Landfall just keeps doing well week after week. And do you really just want to? How does it even work? Like, are you because the Cub decks didn't do specifically well, right? Did they?
No.
So like, is there even like, what's the GTO kind of? What are you even supposed to do? Just hope people play with
Well,
bad
it's really
decks.
tough because despite Landfall doing really well, and maybe this is going to change going forward, like the metagames for all of these events were fairly flat, if I'm remembering
Yeah,
correctly. We didn't see, I think, any archetype above 15%. Which, in past standards we have seen significantly more extreme metagames than that, and it can be really tough, like you said, to kind of, exploit the metagame when there's a couple really strong decks with very few holes that are also just not a huge part of the metagame. Um,
yeah,
I mean, it makes sense to me that mono green would continue to do well in this format. I think one thing mono green has going against it is that, these major shifts in game plan, like talking about moving away from sapling nursery, that could have some big impacts on some of your closer matchups. We could see, potentially some control decks end up popping up a little bit more if they end up being a little bit better against the ways that current people are currently playing
yeah.
their landfall strategies. But it's going to be an ebb and flow, like you said, a give and take, and it's hard to predict week to week.
Yeah, it was 14% prowess. So I guess that also punishes the landfall player. You don't have a lopsided matchup, but you are fair against landfall. 12% lesson, 11% monogreen landfall, 7% Demir midrange, 5% is it spell elementals that made a little comeback, 5% Demir excruciator that had another bad weekend, and then 4% Simic rhythm, which I think went 50% win rate against the fields, and then 3% is Aris Tempo, 3% Banter Bending, only 2.5% Mama White. I guess the deck was a little too new and people weren't too sure. But yeah, that's the numbers for the last round of RC plus the Spotlight series. So I
Funny,
get,
these Izzet decks are almost playing defense for the landfall decks in a way because they're kind of preying on or rather the Simic Cub decks are at its worst against these Izzet strategies, and it's kind of like keeping them down a little bit to be able to eat up the landfall decks and come out on top.
yeah, they do. Yeah, they go Simic Rhythm against Izzet Prowess was 42%. And then there were 27% win rate against spell elementals against the flocks. But we did see some new cards in some of the lists. We saw Michelangelo and Leo as a one or two up sometimes in the green decks. I think that card's solid role player. I've played against it like 2 or 3 times now, and I wouldn't say one map open in the game, but it was a 2-4-1 the first time, and I think the second time they drew like 3 or 4 cards. I had to deal with other permanents first, and it was just super solid. Most lists have adopted the 5-4 in the sideboard mostly, and I guess my list was maybe not as bad as I thought it was. My kind of top 10. I had Mikey at 1. I had Cool Butchroot at 2 that had a good showing in these Ragus Monument decks. Still not super impressive. I think the deck went 50, roughly a little over 50% win rate against the field. There was one interesting take by Brian something. Sorry, I forget his name, but Brian, he came in ninth in the spotlight and he completely cut Monument of Endurance from his deck. Just the creatures, NT for Kulba Root, and I was a little surprised because I feel like I do lose to the Monument a decent bit out of that deck, but it might be some bias where you notice when the Monument gets you and you don't see it when it's stuck in their hand, or you forget when it was in play and just did nothing. But I was still surprised to
Yeah,
see literal zero monuments.
yeah, I thought you might even play the first copy just because of the Kulba Rude tutor, but maybe that's just too fake. But yeah, I thought it was a really interesting approach to just kind of move away from that entirely. He ended up top eighting, actually, not finishing ninth.
All right, yeah,
Um,
bad.
and yeah,
Brian
he's just
Zeng.
a ton of creatures. He's playing Fear of Missing Out, which I think is a card that's not usually in this deck, but makes a lot of sense. He had copies of Casey Jones and Carnage. Um, Casey Jones being from the new set, it's the kind of Tursa-esque card that we were talking about last week, where you draw some cards and then on your next upkeep you discard cards at random, but you have lots of opportunity to use the cards before you do that. And then the copy of Carnage, I think, was really smart. I saw a line when he was on camera where he was able to go hellbend and then tutor for this with the last chapter of
Oh,
Kulba Rude, which kind of turns your gamble into a demonic tutor, an even better demonic tutor because you get to cast a spell for cheaper. So that was a really cool line, and I thought that made a lot of sense to include in the deck as a one of.
yeah, I thought he was just playing it for value. It's a legend. It's a little situational, but I hadn't thought about the Kulba Ruda 3-year-old kind of when you're down on cards, or I see works well with Casey Jones too. Yeah, FOMO was in a lot of the initial lists of that deck when people started playing that deck, and then I guess something had to go, and FOMO was the
Yeah.
card
So
that disappeared from these lists.
what I think was interesting was that the monuments were really strong, but they felt at their best. If it felt like when you were playing the monument version or like the pre TMNT version, that the 3/1 Alfred 2 was kind of the most important card in the deck because it kind of really tied the room together
Yeah,
and really made everything churn. But by getting rid of the monuments, you kind of reduce the reliance on that card, and you can see that Brian here is not even playing it, and you kind of just get to build a more, I don't want to say functional, but maybe a more consistent version of the deck that is kind of less reliant on having these, nut draws or A plus B combos, and you just play these solid Rakdos cards that accrue incremental advantage and eventually just kill your opponent with Kulbarud.
yeah, that makes sense. I hadn't noticed the absence of depth. It makes a ton of sense. It is like either your kind of your best card or your worst card, depending on whether you have monument or
Right.
not. So yeah, maybe he correctly pinpointed the problem and decided to go down the non-mono line. I'm still a little surprised that deck's powerful enough, but yeah, maybe it was NT FOMO. You do get to play a lot of quote unquote actual good cards and not pray to draw the right cards together, because that's like one of the biggest flaws of that deck is that sometimes you just have bad limited draws where it's just like 1/1s and 2/1s. And we were talking before the podcast. You said the Grixis version apparently had kind of a poor showing. The version usually they splash Riddler, maybe Winter Night Stories, mostly Riddler though, and Caroline Party was actually featured right early in the tournament, and she won her feature match playing that deck. But I guess
Yeah, it did. It
adding a
ended up
third,
doing.
yeah,
Yeah, it ended up doing a kind of poorly. Like you were about to say, adding a third color, I think, just ends up being too much of a cost. The mana base is a little shaky in that version. You end up being, I think, a 4 starting town deck and maybe even some multiversal passage on top of that. And um, looking at the numbers, we can see that the Grixis version ended up going 20% against Izzet Prowess and 20% against Demir midrange. So it's possible that all that extra damage just ends up being way too much of a negative. Um, and it's just not worth the upside of the Riddler. The Riddler's really nice, but kind of like what we were saying before, it works really well when you have your engine going, and is just kind of like another, you know, just solid card otherwise. But if you can just fill your deck with more, consistently good cards that are also good with each other when you draw them in combination, it's probably just overall a little bit better. And then you just get to clean up the mana base a little bit too.
yeah. Speaking of cutting monument, I don't know if you saw that list, but Alexis Polo from France, who came in ninth, but was undefeated after day one, completely cut Artist Talent and Monument of Endurance from his Lessons deck.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, just added more interactions, and I think he had the one Raw and one Tough as his win con besides the Blue Talent plus Boomerang Basics combo. So that was an interesting take, and kind of made me think of when I was trying Is It Lessons plus Wan Shi Tong, kind of blue red control almost. And the lessons engine is just really strong, and you can just pair it with other things and just Talon Monument and get some good results apparently.
Yeah,
So
so we saw this list actually at the mocks a little bit
oh,
earlier.
okay.
I think I don't remember who was playing it, but someone was playing it at the mocks, and they ended up losing their play-in for top 16 into the single elimination bracket, and it was with a very similar list. It was a teamer list with Toph, no artist talent, no monument, and yeah, I mean it's just kind of building the deck more like a control deck and a little bit less like a combo deck, I guess is one way to look at it. There's been a lot of talk about Stormcaster's Talent Boomerang Basics being not good against these green decks, but maybe, if you played those but no talents, then or sorry, no monuments, you get to kind of play all those additional removal spells and stuff that you wanted instead. And then you just play the talent boomerang basics engine instead of the artist talent monument endurance engine, and you just lower your curve a little bit. And in addition, against those decks, I think Toph ends up being an extremely strong card. It's just super difficult for them to deal with. It can kind of kill them out of nowhere. Alexi had one copy in his main and one in the sideboard. When I played Teamer Lessons at the Spotlight earlier this year, um, I thought Toph was like one of the main reasons why I wanted to do that. Origin of Metal Bending was a nice inclusion for the mirrors because that was a super big consideration back then. But Toph was really the all star of the green splash, just being able to dodge hate, kill out of nowhere, just a really really strong value card.
Yeah, so in place of Artist Talent Monument, he played one Rahl, one Tough, three stock ups, one Spell Snare, one Spell Pierce, one Fire Magic. So roughly, these 8 cards took the place of Artist Talent Monument. He still had a couple of Quench. He had all the removal spells times 4. He had an extra Ares Demonstration, so he had like a little more removal than most people. And then you mentioned, Origin of Metal Bending. He had 2 in the sideboard, as well as a second Tough. And yeah, you just rely less on these enchantments and artifacts, and you know, I'm assuming you also just catch people off guard, and it's probably a little different to sideboard against Eurolist, and maybe you get a little of equity there where people are not used to playing against Monument less talentless version.
Even if they're like super aware of like what you're going to be doing after board, it can be difficult in the sense that they don't have the right tools, right? If these green decks are playing a ton of copies of the sharpshooter or the new I don't want I want to call it the lizard, but it's not the lizard. The new 4 drop that gets a hexproof counter and disenchants when it hits them. Like if they're playing a ton of these cards to try to combat, a more traditional lessons deck with a ton of artifacts and enchantments, and then instead you just have toffs and extra removal spells and counter spells, they're just not gonna have the right tools for the job.
Yeah, he got pretty unlucky. He drew in the second to last round and then lost the last round. Maybe he thought he could like draw into draw. Apparently, I heard something about Melee just not pairing the 2 undefeated players at some point and making them both play against X and ones. Um,
Oh, strange.
so I don't know if that was that tournament or another one, but yeah, he ended up missing 0.4% of breakers. Probably assumed that even if he like drew in and lost, he would have the best breakers in the tournament and it would be fine. But
Well,
yeah,
was he qualified for the next PT? Um,
he did. I
is
know
this the same?
he beat me. He's
This
the
is the
guy
same guy
who
who beat you, right? Yeah.
yeah, who we both rode the draft, and then I got my feature match against him. And I was like thinking, oh man, I couldn't dodge lessons and stuff. It was funny, but now he was back at it and did well.
Well, the reason I was asking is because if he didn't requalify, then he might have been drawing into the Pro Tour qualification, even knowing that he could miss top eights. Um,
Right.
no, but
Yeah.
it looks like he went 10-6 at the last Pro Tour, so that wasn't what happened.
No. One card we had on our list last week was the Dream Beavers, and we got Estrati, who came in second in the tournament, was Esper Pixie, a deck you know well, and I was curious to know what you thought about his list.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw it. It's a lot different than the list we played. And I mean, Samuel's been playing this deck for a while. He played it, I think, at the last RC as well. I remember his deck had Appas in it, and I think the Angs as well. It was like kind of a bigger version of the deck. So I'm not surprised to see him playing it again. I like the inclusion of the Beavers. I think I mentioned it last week where I thought that was going to be like a kind of a big draw to trying out these Pixie strategies again, whether it be Black White or Esper. But he had some, more interesting inclusions. 2 copies of Sig, 2 copies of Ang, um, and then yeah, just a ton of removal, a ton of the stuff you kind of expect to see in the Pixie decks. I was really surprised to only see 2 copies of Dream Beavers though, because again, I thought that would be one of the main reasons to play this deck again. But he had 4 copies of Flood Pitch Drowner, probably just really emphasizing, the ability to play a flash game, and that card is quite good against all of the green decks. So maybe makes a lot of sense to play those in high numbers.
Yeah, he was actually playing 61 cards too. 'Cause I tried his list a bit, and I go to sideboard at some point, and I go to 60, and it's like, oh, you can't submit. I'm like, huh? And then I was like, oh yeah, I have 16 card in my sideboard. I need to. So I was like, okay, really? Yeah. I made some changes. I played the deck a bit on the ladder. I was not super successful, but I went up to 4 beavers. I think I trimmed on Sun Pearl Kirin. I don't know if that makes sense. I also cut Momentum Breaker because I think that card's like kind of weak in general. So I think I went like -1 Momentum Breaker, -2 Sun Pearl, +2 Dream Beavers, and just go down to 60. I don't know if that sounds reasonable to you.
Yeah, I think playing less than 4 Kieran makes sense sometimes. I know that's something we talked about at the last PT. And I think the time before that I played Pixie, I only played 3 Kieran. I think you can get overloaded on that effect. Beavers helps a little bit just because, the difference between turning your effect into, like make like a little trinket in play versus actually like digging you towards more action, I think is a big deal. So a little bit less likely to get flooded on that effect when you have beavers, but I think going down lower than 8 makes some sense. Like, there's no real reason why 8 should be the right number, right? We even have access to more if we wanted to. There is the Final Fantasy Chocobo, which is worse than both um, Pixie and some Pearl Kirin, but
Yeah.
it's not that much worse. And if 8 was for sure the right number, like why wouldn't anyone ever consider 9? So I don't think it's unreasonable to go down to 7 either, or 6 like you did.
Yeah, because you have boomerang basics too to bounce your cheap cards
Right.
sometimes. And I thought it was 2/6 in the deck. It made a ton of sense. Rainbeaver is also just so good with Kaido to extra scry early in the game, and just feels like it adds up. I didn't have the best results with the deck on the ladder. It felt a little underpowered. It was fine, but I was wondering honestly how he got second. Because yeah, it was the green matchup. I think the one time I played it didn't feel great, and then I played a matchup that's probably just inherently bad. It was the blue red Riddler deck, just Bling, Trainer, Riddler,
Oh, yeah.
because they have like a million shocks, so it's really hard for you to get on the board. And then they have like Riddler, Trainer in the late game. They have like more card
A ton of
advantage,
value.
so
Yeah.
much value, and like Boomerang Basics Talents was too slow, and you're
That deck's a
playing.
little weak to Kaido. Did you ever like cast a Kaido for 4 mana, or
I
like was it just
think
not
I
good enough?
did, and it just died to like an attack plus a torch to tower.
I see. Oh yeah, they do play 4 Torch in that version, I think.
Yeah, and then what hurt me in these long games also was that I had zero value lands. Um, and then the game, it's hard. It's fairly easy for them to prolong the game. It was one match maybe I ran a little bad, but it does sound like it would be a bad matchup, right? Like 8 shocks or whatever, and then trainers to block and Riddler in the late game.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
They have like fire magics too, and that card's really annoying. And yeah,
yeah,
seems really tough.
um, yeah. There was actually a mono white, one of these mono white decks that did really well. That came in second. Are there new cards in? I don't think there's actually any new cards in the mono white version. Right? Figure of the Fable, is that a new one or is that from the last set?
No, that's from Lorwyn.
Yeah. So no turtle cards in that one. But yeah, that deck. I'm not sure I've actually tried the mono white version, but played some variations. Anything else that we haven't talked about that stands out that you want to talk about? Maybe some of the TMNT cards that were played,
Well,
or did
just a
we
quick
cover
note
them all?
on the I want to say it's Southeast Asian, but it could be. I'm not sure which region it is. Sorry about that, but Li Tian ended up taking it down with Demir Demons, but uh, he's kind of the only person to do well with this deck the entire weekend. I'm still quite hesitant on this deck being a strong strategy, but his list, looked pretty stock. Other than he actually had a copy of Marlboro, which I don't think I mentioned last week, but I did have this in my demons list that I was going to play on my RC before I audibled off of it. Um, and I thought that card was kind of a great find for the deck. Um, it lets you it gives you another way to kill post demon with Spider-Man. Like if you just cycle it at any point during the game, then you can play your demon and then all your Spider-Mans are live as kill cons, and it's quick enough where you can have the demon in play the entire time and they'll deck out first. So I thought that was a cool find for the deck, and it's nice to see that Li Tian ended up playing it as well and winning with it. But yeah, besides that, his deck looks extremely stock. He has a copy of Cavernous Souls. He had 2 Day of Black Sun in the main deck. I guess that was the least stock part, but not a super surprising change there.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw the Marlboro was the champ Di Benedetto Plumber. He got featured in the RC, and he had that card in his deck. I was like, wow, yeah,
Yeah,
that is really cool. Really cool piece of tech. So shout out to whoever figured it out. What's that? A Final Fantasy card, right? Yeah.
it is. Yeah, and it has Swamp Cycling. Like it kind of fixes your blue mana a little bit, and that can come up sometimes. And sometimes you just play a Spider-Man on turn 4, and you just get a card out of their hand. It's like not the worst.
Yeah.
Um, I felt like the deck needed like half a mana source more too, so that's kind of nice. Yeah, good addition. Still would not recommend the deck though.
Yeah. No, didn't have a great weekend. I kept since we talked about most of the good decks, I kept working on counters, black green, a lot of black green decks for me, a lot of Golgari or Golgarbage, whatever you want to call it. But I kept trying Obsessive Pursuit, uh, the Mutagen Man, and that whole shell. It feels so close on LC. It's like I went a little streak actually on Arena the other day on the ladder. I thought I was doing it, and then I lost a couple, and I was like, okay, no, that deck's just still mediocre, but it's not that far. The Pursuit plus Mutagen Man combo is really strong. I actually have one of my viewers who pre-drag as always, who plays a lot of standard. He actually made day 2 at the RC. He played Green Landfall. He got so unlucky though. He played Green Landfall. He went 8-6, and he got paired against Cub Rhythm like 6 times in 14 rounds.
Oh God.
Yeah. And he still, I think maybe he beat one, maybe it was like 5 of his losses.
Played
But
against
yeah,
every Cub deck in the room.
yeah. So that kind of sucks for him. But he's back to his like usual black green nonsense, and his list has the Pursuit Mutagen Man or Mutagen Living Ooze or whatever it's called card, and then he plays 4 Ice-Tail Explorers. He has Elf and Cub and some removals and Aspiration, so a bunch of sweepers, so just like 6 sweepers in your all creature decks, but it kind of works. I played that deck a bit different version, and maybe I'm not done with the black green decks, but yeah, nothing I tried was, I mentioned Gavin's Go Ninja Go Jeskai deck. It's fine, it's good. I see 11-4 in the spotlight is a really good result, but still not sold. Um, it's tough. Yeah, it's really tough to crack. That standard's just so powerful right now. And
Yeah, for sure.
do you know when the spoilers for what is it, Strixhaven, has that started?
I don't think it's started yet. Probably starts in a couple weeks, I would guess, because it's usually like 2 weeks of spoilers.
Yeah,
So probably starts in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks of spoilers, and then the set releases, and then the Pro Tour's 2 weeks after that.
yeah,
Um, maybe pushed back by a week or so there, but yeah, we have a little bit of time to figure out the current format, but I don't expect it to get super fleshed out. I know there's one more, I think just one more weekend of RCs,
oh, I
this
thought we
coming
were
weekend.
done. Okay.
Um, I'm pretty sure there's one more. Maybe I'm mistaken, but and then after that, it's probably going to be like a little bit slower moving into the new set. So Maybe TMNT still set to kind of keep on your radar going into the new format, just because a lot of the stuff's going to be unexplored. That's what we saw with the Spider-Man set as well, right? Spider-Man kind of in hindsight ended up having a much larger impact on the format than I think everyone expected, and certainly um, than was present during the first big tournament with Spider-Man. So maybe we can see something similar with the Ninja Turtles as well.
Yeah, you said you played a bit of standard this week. Did you try anything that you were impressed by? Did you anything
I
that?
was mostly just trying to work on the Rakdos Sacrifice deck, or sorry,
Mm,
Rakdos Discard deck,
okay.
and the Grixis version as well. Ended up dropping the Grixis version after seeing the results of this past weekend, and I think that there's just a lot of room to kind of maneuver in the Rakdos version, and I'm going to be trying to figure out kind of the best way to build that so that I know that going into the new format. Because yeah, I think there's so much customization you can be doing, especially now that my eyes are kind of open to the possibility of not playing Monument. So there's play Monument, don't play Monument. Is the new 3-drop legend good? Like how many creatures do you want versus how many discard based removal spells? Do you want to lean into the cool Baru tutors, stuff like that? Like I think there's still a ton of innovation. Also, I was experimenting with a version with the 3-mana enchantment, the case,
Yeah.
the one where you discard a card, draw two. Playing that plus cool Baru, no monument, and seeing if that's a good engine as well, because that one also makes you discard your whole hand if you can achieve the thing, so you really burn people out quickly. So I just think there's a lot of direction you can go with that deck, and a lot of potential.
Yeah, that's true for a lot of the decks. Like seeing Alexi do so well with that Monument Talent made me want to, go back to my Wan Shi Tong version of Blue Red or keep exploring the Lesson Shell and maybe keep trying the ninja build of the Esper Kaido deck was more ninjas, the Dream Beavers, the technique that make tokens was pretty impressive. I don't think I played that deck much since last week's set, but um, yeah, it seems like for every archetype there's so
So much wiggle room.
how many standard sets right now? 15, 16?
I don't even want to think about that.
Yeah.
There's a ton. It's yeah. I couldn't even tell you. It's got to be we're getting 6 sets a year or something, so it's
Yeah.
a crazy amount.
Uh, all right. Yeah. Well, I guess that kind of wraps up standard for this week. I played a tiny bit of No Balance Modern this week. I actually played Boris Energy for the first time. I don't think I'd ever played the deck in Modern. I played it in No Balance Modern. I got a trophy. I went 5-0, but I think I ran pretty good in the matchups and in the games. And that made me want to try Boris Energy in Modern, regular Modern. So I played my first challenge was Boris Energy. I took the stock list that plays free season Pyromancers, two Ranger, Captain of no, which one is it? Ranger Captain of Eos,
Yeah,
I
Ranger
think.
Captain of EOS. Yeah.
One Blood Moon, no Fables, four Flage, four of all the good cards basically. I went 4-2. I was impressed. I thought the deck was good. I think thought I got unlucky in my losses and maybe misplayed. Not just super impressed with Stug Force Energy. There's a reason it's the most played deck in Modern, and uh, a reason
Yeah, it's
people.
super powerful. I got some whiplash when I pulled up Twitch and I saw your thumbnail just playing stock Boros energy. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Yeah, the glitch in the Matrix. Now I know. Um, I started another No Manless Modern League today with Force Energy. I lost against almost a Legacy deck, which is kind of makes sense because No Manless Modern and Legacy are probably pretty close in power level. And my opponent was playing the kind of the Monarch Prison deck, so I got ranked by Fury both games. They had Fable, they had Chalice, Simian Spirit Guide, Chrome Mox. So you try to turn out a Chalice, Blood Moon, a Fable. Yeah, they play four copies of the One Ring. Yeah, that deck looked honestly like pretty nice on paper.
So what
Um,
does your no ban list Energy deck get? Is it just Amp Raptor and Chromox?
Yeah, so 4 Amp Raptor. I only play one Chromox. Maybe I
Okay.
should play more, but I feel like more would be iffy. It's also a card I feel is a little sketch when you have literal zero gold card. There's no gold card in the deck, so
Right. Oh, right, because you're playing Lurrus instead of Flage. We talked about this last week. I remember now.
yeah, which I'm not sure is right, but um no,
Feels hard for that to be wrong, I guess. But I mean, Flage is super powerful, but
yeah.
Lurrus can only be so wrong. I think.
Yeah, I still haven't played against Nadu with that deck. I also that red deck, that matchup felt rough. Plus, I was only down to 2 of the Sculpture. I had 4 in my first league, and it didn't really come up. And that league, I lost game 3 to Chalice on 1 plus Chalice on 2 in the late game, and drawing a Sculpture might have been good enough. Squelcher is a 2/2 for 2. It's uncountable and makes your other spells uncountable, meaning it gets your Chalice, and it then, when it's in play, it gets your other spells for Chalice. So I think that's kind of cool tech. But it's tough because I think you need the Orim's chance against the Storm decks. I played it against another version of Storm, just trying to kind of the Belcher, the modern Belcher deck, where you play Oops All Spells, Belcher, and they probably have the Dragon Storm card too. Um, so yeah, I know there was the first challenge. I think as we speak, I think Spike was streaming it, Doomwake was streaming it, a few others. I might try and play one in a couple days. I think there's one that fits. So see what the results are. That first one, kind of curious to see what does well. And um, yeah, so No Balance Modern. I played a bit of Premodern. I played my beloved Sewers deck, the white black midrange deck, and I had another, I think it's like almost 2 or 3 league slash challenges in a row where I do pretty poorly. I think I went 2 and 4, and I think the deck's a little underpowered. I think it's bad against the mono blue Dreadnought deck. It's close, but I think you're behind. I lost to Stasis. That matchup felt pretty horrible. It's funny. I was like debating between Stasis and White Black. I played White Black and I got paired against Stasis round 1 and kind of
That's
got
right.
crushed. But then I think my Stasis opened and didn't do very well. But it's one of the decks I want to kind of tune. I kind of want to play it on stream. I don't know if my viewers want to watch me play Stasis on stream. Plus, it plays
Watch
the
you tune stasis, and we gotta grind through these games, figure out the exact
Yeah,
configuration.
I might have to do that off stream. Maybe I can be an off stream project. But anyways, yeah, no, there are couple interesting formats on Magic Online right now, on top of Standard and Modern. And I started sorting my collection too, and I've got a few pre-modern cards. Like apparently I don't know if it's me or apparently I went for Survival of the Fittest, and that card went from $50
That
to
card's a lot.
200 because of pre-modern.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you own any pre-modern cards?
I do. Yeah. Well, I own a cube. That's mostly not proxied, so a lot of the cube staples went up. Basically, everything on the reserve list went up like crazy because of pre-modern, I think.
Oh yeah.
Um, Not that this is really a finance podcast, but yeah, I don't really have playsets of a ton of old cards other than the stuff that I played in Legacy. Like I still have all my Legacy cards despite barely playing Paper Legacy anymore. So
Yeah.
I'm sure some of that is appreciated, but yeah, like I own a copy of Survival. I own a copy of, you know, Sarah Sanctum, Tellurian Academy, like all these old reserve list staples that are just in my cube.
Yeah. Wow. The value cube. Let's go.
That building that cube in 2012 or whenever it was at my local game store using store credit that I won playing F&M was one of the better financial decisions I think I made. I vividly remember buying a Lion's Eye diamond for like $20 or something.
Wow. Yeah. It's like seven. Yeah. It's 700
Yeah.
bucks now. I think Sarah
Yeah.
Sanctum's, I think also $700. Cradle is like thousand something.
Right.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. a lot of people listening own these cards. Maybe some of you were not even aware, but
There,
yeah.
there's a pretty big, well, maybe not that big, but there's I'm in a Discord with some Toronto people where that love to play pre-modern, and they're always posting their decks and random events they're playing. So I might try to pull up to a paper pre-modern event at some point, just because it's fun to play with the old cards. I think that'll be a good time.
Yeah, the arts are really pretty. It's
Hmm.
all like the original arts with the old borders are worth like 20 times the price. It's like I was going through my cards, and basically every original legend, even if it's like pretty bad, the full versions are worth like 30x
Yeah.
just because of Commander. Um, Whereas like a full version of a card is worth like a little more sometimes not even much more. But yeah, for commanders, pimped out full commanders. Um,
Have you played against the blue white standstill deck at all in pre-modern?
I have, but
That's one
not
that
recently.
looked pretty good to me.
Yeah. People want me to try that deck because it's kind of blue white control. There's another version that started popping up that's blue white controlled but without the standstills, and I think apparently one of the appeals is you get to play slightly better mana base because you don't have to play as many Mishra's factories and whatnot.
Yeah, the mana base does seem a little suspect on the standstill version, because I think they also play Dust Bowl on top of like a bunch of Mishra's factories and Fairy Conclave. So, um, pretty suspect mana for your counterspell Wrath of God deck, I think.
Yeah, Dust Bowl is a hell of a card. Dust Bowl was my biggest surprise when I played that white black deck. How many games Dust Bowl ended up winning me, especially in combinations like sometimes you vindicate them. A lot of like the replenished matchup, for instance, a lot of time you kind of log them out eventually with Dust Bowl, and because they don't really have card advantage, they just rely on attunement to load up their graveyard, but they don't play accumulated knowledge or anything like that. So if you can like slow them down, and if attunement is just card neutral, and you just eventually get them with Dust Bowl and whatnot. But no, it's an interesting format, and um, yeah, I play against the decks I play against the most are like I think Psychotog, blue black Psychotog's one of the decks I play against the most. Mono blue Dreadnought with Stifle and Vision Charm. Mono red Burn, bit of Goblins. Yeah, I think I would say these four decks maybe is what I get played the most, get paired the most against when I play pre-modern. Um, yeah, I think this weekend there's a couple showcases. I'm still like low on QPs. There's an Arena Direct. It's Seal Deck. It's to win. I think it's actually collector boosters, collector boxes this week. Not sure I'm gonna try that though. Um,
Yeah, there's a vintage and legacy showcase this weekend. I should check how many QPs I have. I actually haven't been paying attention. I wish I played the modern one last weekend, but I ended up not coming around to that. So maybe if I have QPs, I can play the legacy one. I have not touched legacy in a while though, but um, I know that Sneak and Show has been doing pretty decently, and I have liked playing that deck in the past. So maybe I'll give that a shot.
oh wow, what changed? Because I always felt like that deck. I don't know when I got paired against it. I always felt like it was like weakish, and that just
Well, I think it gained Hexing Squelcher, which was a pretty big upgrade for the deck. Um,
oh wow.
yeah, just being able to, play through the soft permission decks really easily with that. It being a creature is obviously kind of annoying for other decks to sideboard against. Especially considering Lightning Bolt is not really a premium removal spell in the format anymore. It's more the black removal, so it's not like you can go face if they don't draw a Squelcher. But I know JPA obviously has been playing a ton of it again, and he's played a lot of Sneak and Show, lifetime, so he's a little bit biased, but I know he's waved off of it at times, but has now been talking up the deck again, so I could give it a revisit as well.
It's funny because I was making fun of people because Squelcher was really expensive before the set came out, and I was like,
Hmm.
what? And I'm not sure why it was expensive, but now I'm talking about it in No Man's Modern. You're talking about it in Legacy. It's not even that bad in Standard, honestly. So
No.
not sure what the price kind of trend curve looks for that card, but
I mean,
yeah.
it's pretty flat right now. It's looking like it definitely spiked on release. I think most of the reason why it was so expensive before the set came out was because of Commander. Um,
Oh,
I don't know how it ended up affecting that format at all. I don't really care to know, but
yeah.
um, yeah, it's definitely settled to a more reasonable price, even though it is seeing some play now in some decks.
Yeah. You mentioned the Modern Showcase. Twinless Twin. One it was Stock Boros. I think the only slight difference in the main is he was playing a Firth Raven Charm over the one Blood Moon people play sometimes. And
Hmm.
then there's an amazing story. It's Sven, who came in fourth. He played first of all, he played a not the most played deck. He played blue red wizards, was out to me, was four trainers, four Flame of Anor, two Snapcaster Mage, and just tons of interaction. And he has two slash reptile rampager in his list, which is the TMNT. It's a 7/5 for 5. Whenever another creature you control enters, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. And when it attacks, you get a 2/2. So pretty powerful card, but expensive. And I was like, is there a typo? Is what's going on? And apparently he posted on social that he has a turtle or had a pet turtle that was called Slash. So he felt compelled to play that card and just made top four with two copies. And not only does he play the card, he played like two copies. So
He
yeah,
played two copies, and he played Arena of Glory to support the two copies. He really went all out to
I didn't
to
see the
put this card
arenas.
into his deck.
Damn, two Arena of Glories when his only other creatures are two Snapcaster Mage, two Subtleties, and four Trainers. They made that card's
He
just
doesn't even have
busted.
the Drake in the sideboard, which is
Is it?
another card that people have played a Glory with before. But yeah, he really went all out to support that one, and I mean he got paid off, but that's a great story of how it got there.
Yeah. So shout out to Sven. That's really cool. Um, and yeah, this weekend QPs. I think I'm not gonna be on Saturday at all, but I'm not sure where I'm gonna find QPs. I guess if I do well in the challenge on Friday. Um, yeah, you said Legacy's on Sunday, right? Every time I play
Legacy's on
Legacy, I
Sunday.
try to pick up a reasonable deck, and I go like 0-2 or 1-2 because I don't know the format well enough. It's so hard to do well in a format you never play. But yeah, if I
Yep.
have the QPs, I'll probably give it a try.
And the format's changed a lot over the past 5 years, I would say, or maybe 10 years at this point. It's a lot less about old magic fundamentals with cantripping and stuff. Like it's way more powerful than it used to be, and I think not having familiarity can really hurt you.
Yeah, no, for sure. Um, but yeah, I think we're ready to put our life on the line.
Let's do it.
All right, for those of you who are new, Life on the Lines is theoretical tournament. If you win, you live. If you lose, you die. And Edgar and I have to bring a deck for the formats we've talked about this week. So I think we should do at least standards. Um, I don't know. We talked a bit about every form. Dealer's choice. You can if you feel like good about a deck, you can add it to the list. But at least standards.
Sounds good.
Do you want to go first? You feel ready?
Yeah,
All right. So it
I
sounds
can
like
go
you're ready.
first.
All
Yeah. So
right.
for standard, like I mentioned earlier, I've been kind of working on these rummaging decks. Um, I think I think if I had to play something this weekend, I would keep trying to play that. You know, green is probably the stronger deck, but I think it's going to be coming down to earth a little bit more as people continue to adjust. The metagame continues to adjust a little bit, so I'm going to stick to the Rakdos Rummaging deck. I think that there's a lot of work to be done there. It had a promising showing, slightly above 50% win rate, but with a new card, essentially new archetype, because this deck wasn't really around before, I think I still have some hope for it. So I'm gonna keep trying some stuff, and I'm gonna keep working on the deck, and I'm probably gonna end up playing that for this week. Don't really feel too strongly about modern or pre-modern or anything like that, but if I do end up playing the Legacy Showcase, I'm going to be playing Sneak and Shows, so I'll put my life on the line on that. I'll trust in my Grizzlebrand and Emrakul, my old faithfuls, and end up playing that.
Yeah. I think for standard, I would just pick, honestly, I'm just going to play Modern Green Landfall. I'm going to do what I did in Modern past week and just pick up the best deck. Um, for Modern, yeah,
You're a changed man, Gab.
I'm going completely, whatever you want to call it, change man off script. But yeah, Modern Green Landfall for standard, Boris Energy for Modern.
Holy.
Yeah, no bin list modern. I don't know what I'm gonna play on Friday if I play. Probably look at the results today because I had a good run with energy, but I feel like it's a little underpowered. Maybe I can figure out the right set for stuff. I don't know if underpowered is the word, but some other stuff has looked impressive. Maybe if that mono red deck I lost to does well in the challenges, if I get a little confirmation from those results, I'll play that. And then pre-modern, kind of back to the drawing board was me after the fun experience was white black mid range. I actually got the deck to like 3% of the meta, like cracked the top 10 most played decks on Magic Online. So I hooked a few people in along the way. But yeah, if you made it this far, as always, thank you so much for listening, for watching on YouTube. Edgar, where can people find you?
You can find me at EdgarMTG on every platform.
Easy. And then you can find me streaming most days on Twitch, twitch.tv/yellowhat. I have a Discord for my community for the Twitch, which also has a dedicated midweek metagame podcast channel. So that's a good way to like ask questions. You can ask us in the YouTube comments. You can just come and ask me on stream. You can reach out to Edgar on social. Yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.